Let's begin our business of shaping policy for today by looking at the latest development in the U.S. as regards TikTok. The U.S. House of Reps on Wednesday decided to pass the bill proposing the ban on this digital platform. What will be the implication of this on 170 million Americans who use this digital platform or flip through the clips? We have the privilege of hosting a US-based content creator. We are being joined by Babajala Ekpega, who is the CEO EMC3. Glad to have you join us in the studio.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me again.
Great.
Good to see you, Fana.
Good morning. It's the first time we're meeting this year. So
yes.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year indeed.
And you look new as well.
I'm looking fresh somehow. Thank you.
I see the year has been kind to you.
I mean, thank God. Thank God it has indeed.
That's great.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So let's look at this development in the US as regards TikTok, the digital platform. It's been on for months, the proposed ban has been generating mixed reactions. There are some who support it, some who oppose it. But let's start with you. What do you make of this development and why is this coming to the front burner?
I think we really have to look at this on many layers. It's a geometrical move. Firstly, on the federal level with the US government, it's a trade war. Let's not mince our words, between USA and China. Also, this being the election year of many countries, I think they're saying over 4 billion of the world, which is over half the world, have a potential to be voting this year. And as we know, the US actual presidential election is hotly contested between President Biden and Mr. Trump now, or ex-President Trump. So there are sensitivities within TikTok, which they know have national security implications. Because as we all know, the AI is surging. Whether you use ChatGPT or all other forms of AI platforms, artificial intelligence, that is. So there are algorithms within TikTok that can be used to manipulate perception in election year. So what America is scared about, and Biden specifically is scared about, that there may be some Chinese influences. I think the company is ByteDance that owns TikTok. Yeah. And it's a correct company. I think he only started like in 2016, in some bedroom in Beijing. But it's exploded. It's bigger than Twitter, X, whichever way you want to call it, Facebook, all these American companies that are hotly contested. As you said, there are over 170 million people in America use it. Their time on there is like 52 minutes a day. But the influence it has on the people's perception is huge as a political statement. But let's talk microfinance or microeconomics. Small businesses use it to make money. Let's not lie. Influencers are very huge on this, and TikTok is very much a money-generating platform for a lot of Americans. So there's a bit of a balance that needs to be taken. As you said, the House of Rep are going through the bill. They've actually had the bill, and now it's the House of Senate that has to ratify it for it to go through, and the President wants to sign it off. So it's a trade war, and we've seen how those things don't end up very well for everyone.
Being a trade war, but it's not actually, the US Congress is not actually asking that or putting a ban on TikTok.
Yeah, that's
it's more like asking them to sell, ByteDance to sell to maybe an American company. Would you think that if an American company buys TikTok, for instance, the issue of it being national security will be laid to rest and TikTok will be free to operate in the US?
That's a very good statement, I think, Blessing, because the importance that you distinguished is, as you said, they're not saying they want to ban it, even though that's an option. They're saying someone else should buy it. But that in itself is a trade war, because they know that, as you said, if it's ring-fenced with an American company running TikTok in America, they feel safer. But also it gives the competition more chance to get into that market. And I think that's also what America is looking at. And of course it will maybe be safer instead of being a Chinese company where the Chinese, political arm can pull in information on the Americans. But I think it's deeper than that. The color is green, to be honest. And I think America's making a power play because they can. And they will, because Biden's already said in his federal, in the political side, the civil servants, TikTok has been banned. So yeah, I think it will do a better job, but to have 6 months to sell it, I don't think that's plausible.
All right, let's go to the time frame given to the TikTok to cut its tie with its parent, which is 6 months. How visible, how visible is that? And what might likely be some of the unforeseen controversies that may trail this if this eventually happens?
I think 6 months is very tight to sell such a company, even though, of course, there are lots of individual investors as well as companies in America that were vying for this. It's such a huge, is it 230 billion market capitalization for TikTok or something quite huge in that? Please don't quote me on that. But to sell a company of that magnitude in 6 months is an accounting nightmare. I work in finance as well. As you say, I have content creation in US as well as in Europe and here in Nigeria. To actually homogenize a company into selling it in that short time is a real Herculean feat. But America is America, so maybe it's possible.
All right, there have been revolts by the users against the bill, which is about to be passed. We don't know what Senate would come up with, but the reps complain they were receiving calls, even from children who were users of TikTok, revolting against this move. Do you think it's enough pressure to make the Senate go against what the Congress has done?
I think TikTok has become one of the opiates of the masses, and as you say, children, which is a bit worrying. There's a lot of child exploitation online, but there's protection against that. So children are driven by what they know or what their parents tell them to know. And I think that pressure from Generation Z, as I call it, or in America say Gen Z, to say, uproar, how can you take away our TikTok? Will put pressure on the House and Senate. But I don't think Senate is going to vote it in personally. Don't mark my words, but I think there's going to be a bit of a struggle because of the House of the Rep and Senate. There's a distinct difference, but for sure there will be pressure from the people.
Do you think this confirms America's fear of TikTok being a national security threat? Because TikTok did confirm asking users to talk to their reps about the sale.
That is unorthodox. For a company to tell people to urge them to protest against their representatives in government, I think, that is unorthodox, and that in itself, as you said, is a security risk. But AI and online, I think even in Europe, there's a European Parliament Act that gives guidelines now to artificial intelligence. AI is just all over the place. It's everywhere. And TikTok is part of this movement, the digital movement. It's going to be a very tough one. So I think there is a risk, but it's also a financial. It's not the color of your skin that matters, it's the color of your green, as they say in America. So it's all about money, unfortunately, I think.
Let's look at how the candidacy of Trump might likely affect this development. Initially he had attempted to, ban this. And now that he's becoming a force to reckon with, now it's talking about the coming election. Will you say his candidacy might be a game changer as regards TikTok development?
His candidacy and then his presidency is what we have to really assess, because obviously he flips. First he said ban it, now he's saying it's not so bad because he uses it as well. Biden uses it as well, let's not lie, and they both use it. But if Trump does become president, let's say, he has a lot of hurdles to cross first, but that obviously will placate this. He could even U-turn. And I think that he may again U-turn in his decision to ban it again. For him, he's very much a knee-jerk kind of leader. So he's feeling the pulse of the people and he's following that. But it's a much deeper question. It's an existential question for us as human beings. How much are these social media, online, AI platforms controlling our lives? And we're seeing a battle here. I think it's bigger than even that.
So for the US and America, they've had trade war for a long time. Even when Trump was president, that did seem to intensify. And going forward, America actually making it sound like this is our enemy, because they refer to China as their foremost adversary. Do you think it is taking this too far?
America always takes things far. That's how we've known the last, let's say, 70, 80 years. America's been full frontal, even though 100 years from the First World War, European War. So for them, there's a link to Taiwan, you know, the semiconductors. There's a link to trade war in Europe. There's trade war in Africa even. But specifically, as you say, in China, taking it too far, they always chance countries, and that's what they're doing. And politically, they have to be seen to be doing something, because I feel they like their people to focus on one specific angst or challenge or adversary, and China has been that. So I don't think they're too far gone, to be honest, because China too has its own misgivings. But so does America. There's no one, as in the Bible said, let he, you know, with no sin cast the first stone. It plays both ways. So I think they have to do something, and there will be a happy medium. I think they'll meet somewhere in between the two.
Let's look at this statement credited to the authority in Beijing, saying that if this happens, that means TikTok has to cut its tie with its parent company. According to the statement, I want to quote correctly, it says it will come back to bite US. How do you react to that?
It's funny, their choice of word, bite, as in bite dance,
Yeah.
you know, but it's a play in words in itself. I think there is a trade, there is a trade.
There might likely be a
Yes.
consequence.
There will be. And I think they're talking internally, because people will protest inside America, because they use it, influencers. That's how they make their jara, their chop, and their money even safe, you know, day to day. From the young, you know, influencer to the housewife to the husband, everyone does something. So I do believe there will be huge financial repercussions to something like this if it's banned, and let's say they don't find another company to buy it. That is going to be a problem. But China talks very quietly, but has a large impact. And I think that will play a part, because remember, even on your iPhone or even on the Android, a lot of apps of similarity are made in China. So why TikTok alone? If you're really going for it, why not ban them all? So where does it stop? And I think that's what China's implication is. You're going for TikTok now, what about the others? If you go for TikTok now, what will happen to the others? So they're saying take time, because if you start the dam and you break the bricks, the water will flow, and that's their vision within this, I think.
Talking about reciprocity now, do you foresee China making some retaliatory policies regarding the operations of American companies in China?
I think it is quite punitive already in China, and America is kind of counter-gauging what's happening in China, the restrictions on laws and ownerships for American companies or non-Chinese companies. So I believe they will put that even more. It's a tit-for-tat kind of strategy, isn't it? And you know, even this year, you're seeing there's a lot of undercurrents going on, like cookies, I think are coming off Chrome or Google this year. So even with Facebook and Instagram, all these kind of AI platforms, their software capabilities are changing. So there is a digital war going on. And I think you're right, American companies will be hit in China. But the consequence, China needs America more, so they won't be as aggressive, I don't think.
Now, do you think this drama playing out might likely affect the followership of the digital platform TikTok? And then do you see, you know, this development being like an eye-opening for other nations, so, you know, European nations, even Africa, to also look at the potential threat that could be, you know, created by TikTok?
I think there is that, but the capacity for other countries to corral or to manipulate such a large company as TikTok may not be there. In Africa, we have other problems, you know, as we all know, you know, but America, this is a focus, it's a big business focus. Corporate America wants this to happen. They're lobbying aggressively, the rep and the Senate as well. The people who, as they say, when elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. And the people will just follow through. But in a strange inverse geometric way, I think that the more they push TikTok out, the more followers they'll get. And that algorithm seems to work. It's worked with Trump. The more he gets put in court, the more people love him. You know, America is the dichotomy of human beings at the moment. The more someone is aggressive towards what they see as a little man, the more people want to help. And I think TikTok will have that surge of followers again. I think, how many is it? It's up to 5 billion users. And the world is 8 billion. In America, obviously, with TikTok, TikTok is only about 1 billion or whatever, but 5 billion people are online, internet. So that's almost 25%, something like that. So it's already large, but the more people hear about this, the more they'll be like, this TikTok. So how does Europe fight that? How does UK fight that? How does Nigeria, Angola? It's too big a problem.
What is it about TikTok that is making it making users want to go there, see what it's like, and begin to use it, even children, because they seem to be liked, very well liked by children, to the extent that children would call their reps in the US and ask that they do not push for the sale of TikTok. And again, what is it about TikTok that doesn't seem right? We have all the social media apps and other social media platforms. Facebook has been there for a long time. You even have X when it was Twitter, and even when it was banned in Nigeria, but it still didn't have issues in other countries. So, but you recall that there was an influencer in the US who was talking about parenting that was jailed for about 20 years because it was found that she also admitted to be abusing her children, even though she was giving counsel on TikTok on how to raise children. But at that point, it sort of opened up issues about TikTok, failure of TikTok to actually protect children. So what is it about TikTok and children, and why do a lot of users want to make use of TikTok? Can they also make money with other platforms? Is there a special thing about it?
I think you're right. They do make money off other platforms. And TikTok had, it has a Chinese name, which I don't recollect right now. It's the only company that has two names and is so buoyantly successful. In China, when it started, it was backed by the Chinese government. And when you have that kind of money behind you, you can expand quickly, as it has done in 8 years. So TikTok has this clickbait potency that gives instant gratification to so many people. And that's the engineering of TikTok. The finance, the marketing behind it has exploded. Anything that comes from China, because of the numbers, it's like Nigeria. We have over 200 million people. If you are selling peanut here, you will become a multi-millionaire if you do it right. It's the power of people. And we have to remember it's the power of the people that make it great, but also that can cause to children problems. And I think that is the innate fear of people, that it's unregulated. World Wide Web is unregulated, but TikTok is even more powerful, and the government is behind it, the Chinese government. So that makes America fear, because that means you're getting into their children's mind. And there is a certain aspect of TikTok that makes you feel it's my world, it's me that's doing it, it's all controlled by me, I am unique, but it's not unique. It's uniquely mass. So they play that very well. iPhone and the others you mentioned, Facebook, Twitter, they're American. So there's a big difference, and that's the distinction. I think the Chinese, the algorithms, it works very well, the bite dance towards children, the clickbait, instant gratification. All my friends will see me, and it's kind of cool.
Great. Let's wrap up with this. The bill has passed the U.S. House of Reps. It's heading to Senate. And you have a president who is eager to sign. He has said it openly that as soon as he has the bill, he's ready to sign. What do you foresee playing out?
Wow, if I had my crystal ball on me here now.
You'd like to look into it.
Yes, to give clarity of the moment. But I feel that it's a big statement, but I think in Senate it might not pass. And I know everyone, the momentum's building, there's a lot of media behind it, but it's going to take longer. Everything takes longer than you believe. It might not get the votes it needs in the Senate, and they get pushed back. And during the election time, the Biden will urge, because there's an election coming, and it has political inferences, especially now. So I think there will be a stalemate. I know I'm not sitting on one side or the other, but I don't think it will progress past this, because it's a human right issue, or authoritarian issue. If the government can go for a private company like this, why can't they go for everyone like this? And that's how Senate thinks. They've got to think of it, not human right, but a business right. How can they come and, we're not a dictatorship, how can they come and shut down one company when there are many companies doing the same, even though TikTok, of course, has a large part of the market. So I think there will be a battle in the Senate, and I think it will get shut down, personally, but we'll see.
But at the end of the day, if it doesn't get shut down, the move for the sale doesn't work out, and maybe an outright ban also doesn't work out. But do you think this would be the beginning of lawsuits against TikTok regarding its operations, particularly policies around child users?
I think that's very hard to put your finger on, because in the law, legally, it may not be the instrument you use that you actually commit to court, it's the individual. So with digital, like court cases for, let's say, the dark web or child online exploitation, it's very hard to say, okay, remember they took Facebook in front of the tribunal and said, you are not doing well for kids. It's the same with TikTok. They'll put them in front and say, yeah, what's going on? I'm sorry, sir. Sorry, man. I'll try and do better. That's what will happen. So I don't believe it's like if someone stabs someone, it's not the knife that gets the court case, it's the human being. So I don't think that will come into, and TikTok is one of many. I still believe it will be the other way around. TikTok will sue the American government.
Let's see how the drama unfolds.
Yes, we'll see.
All right, we just have to leave the conversation here. What a way to wrap up. If I had my way, I would say we extend the conversation.
Yes.
But we just have to wrap, and we need to thank you for your time, for sharing your wealth of experience as a content creator. You had painted all the sides, looking at the business side, and then on the part of the users. We must thank you for your time and your commitment. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you so much.
Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.